What would you do if the enemy you were trained to kill was the one who saved your life? The skies above Vega 9 burned crimson that night. Ash drifted through the air like black snow, settling over the twisted metal remains of what used to be a human outpost. The war between Earth and the Zirath Empire had lasted 17 years, and humanity was losing. Every star conquered, every fleet destroyed, felt like another nail sealing the coffin of our kind. Private Ethan Cole, 23 years old, Earthborn, a soldier who'd stopped believing in heroes, was one of the few survivors left after the fall of Vega 9. He crawled out from beneath a collapsed bunker, lungs filling with dust and the scent of plasma-burnt steel. His communication link was dead, his weapon low on charge, and the air around him shimmered with radiation from orbital strikes. He had no reason to expect rescue. Then he heard it, an inhuman cry echoing across the desolate plain. It wasn't the roar of a Zirath war beast or the hiss of one of their drones. It was smaller, fragile, almost afraid. Ethan followed the sound, his boots crunching over shattered armor plates and bones turned to ash. When he reached the edge of a crater, he froze. There, half buried beneath debris, was a Zirath child. Her silver-blue skin was streaked with dust and blood, and faint bioluminescent lines pulsed weakly beneath the surface. Her chest rose in short, panicked gasps. She couldn't have been more than 8 by human standards. Ethan's first instinct was to raise his weapon. The Zirath had slaughtered his unit without mercy. He'd seen what their plasma lances could do. Men turned to vapor, screams cut short. But this child wasn't a soldier. She looked more like a wounded bird than an enemy. He hesitated. Then the ground trembled. A human drone fighter screamed overhead, scanning the area. If they detected Zirath life signatures, they would incinerate the site without hesitation. And Ethan realized something horrifying. She wasn't just any child. The crest on her forehead, faint but unmistakable, was the royal sigil of the Zirath Queen herself. Ethan had seen that mark once before, during the Battle of Karthus Reach, when the Queen's image was broadcast across the stars, declaring vengeance on humanity. This child was her daughter. He didn't think. He acted. He tossed aside his rifle and ran down the crater, ignoring the pain that screamed through his legs. The girl tried to crawl away, terrified, but her strength failed. Ethan knelt beside her, pulled off his oxygen mask, and pressed it gently over her mouth. She struggled for a moment, then began to breathe. The drone's sensors swept closer. Ethan grabbed a fallen Zirath cloak, wrapped it around her glowing body to mask her heat signature, and dragged them both into a ruined shelter just as the drone passed overhead. It might have been seconds. It might have been hours. Time lost meaning inside that silent tomb of war. When he finally dared to move again, the girl's eyes fluttered open, luminescent, shifting between violet and silver. She spoke, her voice trembling in broken English. "You, human?" Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. "Yeah, I'm human and you're hurt." She looked at him, studying his face with strange curiosity. "You saved me. Why?" He didn't have an answer. Maybe it was because he'd lost too much already. Maybe it was because in that moment he saw not an alien, but a child who didn't deserve to die for her mother's war. They moved only at night. By day, the planet's atmosphere blazed under orbital fire. Ethan scavenged from the wreckage of both armies, rations from human crates, medicine from Zirath medpods. The girl, who finally told him her name was Sira, began to trust him. She mimicked his words, his movements, even his jokes. Once, she laughed, a soft musical sound that didn't belong in a world so ruined. It startled him more than any battle. But every act of mercy comes with a cost. 3 days into their journey toward the evac zone, Ethan picked up a faint transmission. A Zirath search squad, elite hunters, were scanning the region for the lost heir. If they found her, he'd be executed on sight. If humans found him with her, he'd be branded a traitor. The safest thing he could do was leave her behind. But that wasn't who Ethan was anymore. He looked at her sleeping under the torn cloak, her chest rising and falling softly, and made his choice. He would get her out, no matter what it cost him. The final leg of the journey led through the glass fields, miles of irradiated sand that once were cities. Lightning danced across the horizon, silent and blue. Ethan carried Sierra in his arms, the radiation gnawing at his armor's filters. Each step felt heavier than the last. When the storm hit, he barely made it to a collapsed structure, a remnant of an ancient colony dome. Inside, he collapsed beside her, gasping for air. His vision blurred. The radiation had breached his suit. Sierra crawled to him, terrified. "You dying?" she whispered. He smiled weakly. "Looks that way." She touched his chest, and the bioluminescent lines on her skin flared brighter. He felt warmth spread through him, alien, electric, alive. She was transferring something, her energy, her life force. He tried to stop her, but she looked into his eyes and said, "You save me, I save you." The light faded. He blacked out. When he awoke, the storm was gone. His body ached, but he was alive. And Sierra was gone. All that remained was a faint trail of glowing footprints leading out into the desert. Ethan followed them until he collapsed again, this time from exhaustion rather than poison. He didn't remember much after that, only the blinding white of ship lights and voices shouting in both human and Zerath tongues. Then darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't on Vega 9. He was in a room unlike anything he'd ever seen, walls alive with shifting colors, air humming with energy. At first he thought he was dreaming. Then he saw her, the Zerath Queen. She was taller than any human, her presence both graceful and terrifying. Her eyes glowed with the same silver hue as her daughter's. She approached him silently, and he realized that he was surrounded, not by guards, but by healers. They had treated his wounds, restored him. The Queen stopped before him. "You are Ethan Cole," she said, her voice both human and alien in tone, "the one who saved my child." Ethan tried to stand, but she raised a hand. "Be still. You have done what no one of your kind has ever done." He met her gaze, unflinching. "Where is Sierra?" The Queen's expression softened, a rare thing for a ruler known for her ruthlessness. "Safe, because of you." He nodded slowly. "Then my job's done." But she shook her head. "No, human, it is not done. You have changed something far greater than you know." She gestured to the walls, which rippled to reveal a vast view of space, the stars burning, fleets drifting, the scars of war stretched across the cosmos. "For centuries," she said, "our species believed mercy was weakness. You proved otherwise." Ethan frowned. "I didn't do it for politics. I did it because it was right." The Queen stepped closer. "That is why you will be remembered, not as a soldier, but as a bridge." He didn't understand what she meant until the room's light dimmed, and he felt a strange energy flow through his veins. The Queen was sharing something with him, not physically, but mentally. Visions, memories, flooded his mind. Stars forming, civilizations rising and falling, and then something new, a future. Humans and Zerath standing side by side, working together, building. He gasped, pulling back. What are you doing to me?" She smiled faintly. "Giving you what your kind has always sought, understanding." He looked at his hands. They were glowing faintly, the same bioluminescent shimmer as Sierra's. His body felt different, lighter, connected to something vast. "Why me?" he whispered. "Because," the Queen said, "you showed compassion when your species had none left. You reminded us that even in war, there can be grace." He wanted to speak, to protest. to tell her he wasn't anyone special. But before he could, the light enveloped him completely, and the world dissolved into brilliance. When he woke again, he was back on Earth. No wounds, no scars. The war was over. No one could explain how it ended. The Zerath fleets had withdrawn overnight. Their transmissions carried only a single message, translated into every human language. The bridge has been built. Ethan never told anyone what happened on Vega 9. He disappeared from public life, living quietly near the coast, haunted and humbled by what he'd seen. But sometimes, when the night sky burned red at sunset, he'd feel a soft warmth on his chest, a pulse of silver light just for a moment. And he'd know that somewhere, among the stars, Syrah was watching. Yet one question never left his mind. If mercy could end a war, what else might it awaken? And on one quiet night, years later, when a soft knock echoed on his door, he found the answer waiting. A figure stood in the moonlight, not human, not entirely alien. And she whispered, "Father." Then everything changed. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't move. The doorway framed her in pale silver light, and for an instant he thought it was a dream, some trick of memory summoned by guilt and longing. But then she spoke again, her voice trembling and real. "Father," she repeated softly, the word strange on her tongue, as if it carried more weight than she could bear. The years had not dulled his instincts. His pulse raced, muscles tensed, eyes scanning the shadows beyond her. No ship, no sound, just the ocean wind sighing against the walls of his small cabin. He stepped closer. "Sierra?" Her eyes shimmered with the same violet-silver hue he remembered, but they were older now, deeper, the kind of eyes that had seen too much. She nodded. "It is me." He reached out, hesitating, afraid she'd vanish if he touched her. But her skin was warm, alive. When his hand brushed her cheek, faint light rippled across her skin like waves through water. "I watched you," she said. "All these years, the Queen, my mother, kept her word, but I needed to see you myself." Ethan stepped back, trying to find words. "It's been, 10 years? 15? You look different," she finished for him, smiling faintly. "I am not what I was, nor what you are. I am something new." Outside, thunder rolled, distant but heavy, a storm gathering on the horizon. He poured her a glass of water, out of habit more than hospitality. She didn't drink, only held it between her hands, watching the surface ripple with the pulse of her energy. "You said the war was over," she murmured. "But peace is not the same thing." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked out the window. The rain had begun to fall, slow, deliberate drops that streaked down the glass like tears. The Zerath withdrew, yes, but some among them did not forgive. Others among your kind do not forget. There are whispers of something coming, something worse than war. Ethan felt a chill creep down his spine. "You're saying they're planning another attack?" She shook her head. "Not the Zerath, not entirely. A new faction, born from both worlds. They call themselves the Veil. They believe the bridge should never have been built." He remembered that message. The bridge has been built. And suddenly it didn't feel like a symbol of peace. It felt like a warning. Syrah's eyes met his. "They want to erase what we became. They want to end the merging before it changes everything." Ethan's mind raced. Merging. "You've felt it," she said softly. "The light within you. The pulse that wakes when you dream. The Queen gave you more than understanding that day. She bound you to us. You are the first of the bridge." He stared at her, disbelief warring with memory. He'd tried to ignore it, the flicker of silver beneath his skin when he touched the sea, the dreams that felt like someone else's memories. "I thought that was a side effect, a hallucination." No, she said, it's connection. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating her face, serene yet haunted. You are what they fear, Ethan. Proof that our kinds can become one. He leaned forward. Then why come here? Why now? Because they are coming for you. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the rain, hammering harder against the roof. Who? He asked quietly. The Veil, she whispered. They know you exist. To them you are the key, or the threat. They will not let you live. He almost laughed, a short, bitter sound. I thought I'd left the war behind. Sira rose, graceful, movements fluid like water flowing around stone. You never left. You just forgot what it sounded like. The wind howled outside, and in the distance the ocean churned with a strange phosphorescent light. Ethan had lived by that sea for years, but he'd never seen it glow like that before. He followed her to the window. What is that? Sira's expression hardened. They're already here. Through the rain he saw them. Dark shapes moving against the waves, too precise to be boats, too silent to be human. Metallic bodies, sleek and angular, rising from the depths like shadows given form. They followed me, she said quietly. I thought I hid my trail, but they found the resonance, the link between us. Ethan grabbed his jacket, the soldier in him reawakening. Then we run. But Sira shook her head. There is nowhere to run. They are not coming to kill us. They are coming to claim you. Before he could respond, a blinding flash split the night. The windows shattered inward, and the world became a roar of wind and light. Ethan was thrown to the ground. The air hummed, a deep, resonant frequency that rattled his bones. When the light faded, 3 figures stood in the wreckage. They were human. Or almost. Their eyes burned faintly blue, veins pulsing with the same glow as Sira's. But their faces were blank, emotionless. One of them stepped forward. His voice was calm, mechanical, layered with static. Ethan Cole, you will come with us. Ethan raised his hands instinctively, shielding Sira behind him. Not a chance. The figure tilted his head. You misunderstand. Resistance is irrelevant. You are property of the Bridge Accord. You belong to both sides, and therefore, to us. Sira's light flared, and a ripple of energy burst outward, slamming into the intruders. They staggered, their metallic armor cracking like glass. Go! She shouted. Ethan didn't argue. They ran through the wreckage, into the storm. The rain was freezing, the wind fierce, but the adrenaline drowned out everything. He could see the coastline ahead, jagged rocks and the crashing sea. A beam of white light shot past him, vaporizing a tree in an instant. Another missed by inches. Sira stopped, turned, and raised both hands. The rain curved around her, droplets freezing mid-air as her energy pulsed outward. The attackers faltered, their movements jerking. For a second, the storm seemed to hold its breath, then everything exploded. When the world stopped spinning, Ethan found himself half buried in sand, ears ringing, the taste of salt and blood in his mouth. The ocean glowed again. Only now, the glow was spreading, forming patterns in the water. Sira stood at the edge of the surf, her silhouette framed by light. She looked older now, her glow dimming. They won't stop, she said. Not until you understand what you are. Ethan struggled to his feet. Then tell me. She turned toward him, the wind whipping her hair across her face. You were meant to die that day on Vega 9, but you didn't. The Queen saw something in you, not just compassion, potential. You are the first human who can hold the Zereth light without being consumed by it. He stared at her, the truth sinking in. You mean, I'm one of you? She shook her head gently. Not one of us, not one of them, both, the first bridge. He took a step closer. And you? I am what comes next, she said, the second. A silence passed between them, heavy, electric. The sea roared louder, The patterns of light were changing, forming symbols, Xyrath runes mixed with human numerals, a signal. Sira's eyes widened. They found the source. The source? Ethan asked. She turned to him, urgency in her voice. The original bridge engine, the machine that binds our worlds. It's waking up. If the veil reaches it first, they can sever the link. Everything, peace, memory, the future, it will all collapse. Ethan's heart pounded. Where is it? Sira raised her hand and the light from the sea rose upward, forming a holographic image, a planet wrapped in clouds of violet energy. Not far, she said, but we'll need help. He frowned. Help from who? The Xyrath won't trust me. The humans will shoot on sight. She smiled faintly. Then we find those who belong nowhere, like you, like me. Behind them, the wreckage of the cabin burned, orange flame against silver rain. Ethan watched it for a long time, realizing the quiet life he'd built was gone, consumed by something much larger than he could comprehend. When he turned back, Sira was already walking toward the water. The glow beneath the waves parted like a path. He followed, hesitating at the edge. The sea shimmered, warm instead of cold, and when he stepped in, the light responded, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Sira looked back at him one last time. This will not be easy, Father. The bridge is not just between worlds, it's inside us, and every choice we make shapes what comes next. He nodded slowly. Then, let's make it count. The ocean rose around them, the light intensifying until the storm itself seemed to dissolve. The air vibrated, and in a burst of white silence, they were gone. Miles away, on a darkened military station orbiting Mars, a signal flickered to life, an ancient frequency once believed lost. The console's screen pulsed with 2 words in alien script. The bridge wakes. An officer stared at it, pale with disbelief. Sir, you need to see this. But before the commander could respond, the signal spread, jumping from satellite to satellite across human and Xyrath systems alike. Somewhere deep in the void, a machine older than either species stirred, its gears humming, its core glowing with both blue and silver light. And far beneath the waves of Earth, as Ethan and Sira vanished into the radiant depths, a voice, ancient and patient, whispered through the current, "The bridge is alive." The sea went still. And then, with a pulse that shook the stars themselves, the next chapter of humanity began. They emerged from the light into silence. Not the silence of peace, but of something vast. A place between worlds, where sound itself seemed hesitant to exist. Ethan's feet touched solid ground, though it felt neither wet nor dry, as if the rules of matter were still deciding whether to apply. The sky above was a shifting ocean of color, violet and gold flowing together in slow motion. Beneath their feet, the surface pulsed faintly with light, alive, responsive. Sira stood beside him, her face calm, but her eyes flickered with unease. "We're inside the conduit," she said softly. "The space between realities. The bridge's heart." Ethan turned slowly, trying to take it in. The horizon stretched infinitely, but there was movement everywhere, faint silhouettes gliding through the haze, humanoid yet distorted, like echoes caught between dimensions. He whispered, "What are they?" Sira's gaze followed his. Fragments, projections of those who touched the bridge and were changed by it. Some are memories, some are still alive. One of the shapes turned toward them. Its face rippled through forms, human, Xyrath, and something else. Ethan's pulse quickened. He felt it looking through him, not at him. And then, faintly, he heard his own voice whisper back, distorted by static. "Do you know what you've become?" He staggered backward, the sound echoing in his skull. Sira reached for his arm. "It's the resonance. The bridge recognizes you now. It's testing your identity. He took a shaky breath. Feels more like it's trying to erase it. Perhaps both, she said. They began walking, if walking was the right word for moving through a place that seemed to change direction on its own. The colors shifted with each step, the air humming like distant music. Ethan noticed faint trails of light spreading behind them, fading only after several seconds. "How long have you known about this place?" he asked. Syrah's expression darkened. Since the Queen's passing, she hid it from everyone, even me, until her final moments. The bridge isn't just a machine, it's alive. It was never built, it grew. Ethan frowned. Grew? From what? She hesitated. From something older than either of our species. We found remnants on ancient moons, traces of an extinct civilization. They called it the Source. We thought it was a power to be used. We were wrong. Her voice softened, almost breaking. It was a consciousness waiting to be awakened. And when the Queen connected it to your energy on Vega 9, it noticed us. Ethan stopped. You mean I woke it up? Syrah nodded slowly. Yes. The first human to merge with Zyrath essence. You didn't just bridge our people, you bridged the living with something beyond life. He looked down at his hands, faintly glowing in rhythm with the ground. Then what does it want? Syrah glanced up at the swirling sky. To finish what it started. A low rumble rolled across the horizon, like distant thunder. The colors above them began to darken, streaked with red and black. Ethan felt the change. The pulse beneath his feet grew heavier, slower, like a massive heartbeat. The fragments around them began to move faster, their shapes clearer now. Some reached out as they passed, faces filled with grief, anger, longing. Human soldiers, Zyrath warriors, civilians, children, all flickering between moments of life and death. It's showing us memories, Syrah whispered. The bridge doesn't see war and peace, victory and loss. It sees patterns, repetitions. Ethan's chest tightened. He saw flashes, Vega 9 burning, his comrades falling, the child he saved gasping for air. Then another image, himself, years older, surrounded by both humans and Zyrath, leading them. But the image shattered, dissolving into smoke. He turned to Syrah. It's showing the future. Possible futures, she said. The bridge is trying to decide if you are worthy to carry them. The ground split open with a sudden crack, light erupting upward. Ethan shielded his eyes. From the fissure rose a figure, tall, luminous, familiar. The Queen. Her form was perfect, regal, her eyes like twin stars. Ethan's heart lurched, but Syrah fell to her knees, trembling. That's not her, she whispered. It's a reconstruction. The Queen's voice echoed around them, deep and melodic. My child, my creation, you have returned where you do not belong. Syrah stood slowly. Mother, you're gone. This isn't real. The Queen tilted her head. Reality is perception. You perceive me, therefore I am. I remain within the source, within the bridge. Her gaze shifted to Ethan. And you, the human who changed the current. Do you still believe mercy is strength? Ethan took a breath, the words heavy on his tongue. I don't know anymore. Maybe mercy's just another kind of war. The Queen smiled faintly. Then you begin to understand. The light around her pulsed, brighter now, blinding. Syrah tried to step forward, but Ethan grabbed her arm. The air crackled with energy. When the light dimmed, the Queen was gone, replaced by a vast structure in the distance. A tower of shifting glass and shadow, rising endlessly upward, humming with the same rhythm as their hearts. Syrah's voice was barely a whisper. The core. Ethan stared at it. That's where the source is? Yes. And if the veil reaches it first? She didn't finish. He could see them now. dark shapes on the horizon, moving toward the tower with mechanical precision. "The veil is already inside the conduit," Ethan said. "How?" "They must have accessed it through the Queen's remains," Sira said, eyes wide with realization. Her consciousness was the key. "So they used her to get here?" "Yes, and they'll use you to finish the breach." Ethan clenched his fists. "Not if we get there first." They began to run, though the act of running felt strange in a world where distance warped. Each step carried them farther than it should. Each breath echoed for miles. The figures of the veil grew clearer, hybrid forms of flesh and machine, human faces laced with Zyreth markings, their eyes burning with cold unity. As they neared the tower, the ground beneath them turned transparent. Beneath their feet, Ethan saw galaxies, endless spirals of stars suspended in liquid light. It felt like walking across the surface of creation itself. Sira slowed, gasping. "The energy here. It's overwhelming." Ethan turned to her. "Then stay behind me." She shook her head. "No, you don't understand. The bridge feeds on resonance, emotion, memory, identity. If we go further, it will try to consume what makes us us." He hesitated. "So how do we stop it?" "We don't," she said softly. "We synchronize with it." Before he could ask what she meant, a sudden force slammed into him, throwing him backward. He hit the ground hard, vision spinning. The veil had reached them. Their leader stepped forward, tall, armored, face hidden behind a mask of obsidian. His voice was deep, vibrating through the air. "Ethan Cole. The bridge was never meant to join. It was meant to cleanse." Ethan rose shakily. "Cleanse what?" "The weakness of separation, the chaos of choice." The leader removed his mask, revealing a face that froze Ethan's blood. It was his own. Sira gasped. "No." Ethan stared, unable to speak. The other version of him smiled faintly. "I am what the bridge made when it decided mercy was inefficient. I am what you would have become had you accepted its full gift." Ethan's mind reeled. "You're not real." "I am more real than you," the duplicate said. "I carry the source's truth. It created both of us. The bridge of compassion and the bridge of control. Two paths. One must remain." Sira stepped forward, glowing fiercely. "Then he chooses." The duplicate's gaze shifted to her. He already did, long ago. He raised his hand, and the air split open. Energy surged toward Ethan, striking his chest like a hammer. Pain seared through him, light and darkness colliding beneath his skin. Sira screamed his name, running to him, but the duplicate caught her by the throat, lifting her effortlessly. "You are the anomaly," he said, "the offspring of peace, but peace was never sustainable, only balance." Ethan's body convulsed, light tearing from his veins. He heard Sira choking, struggling, and something inside him broke. The pain transformed into clarity. His mind opened, not outward but inward, through layers of memory he didn't know existed. He saw Vega 9 again, but this time from above. Himself saving Sira, the Queen watching through unseen eyes. And beyond that, the bridge watching all of them. It hadn't just chosen him. It had orchestrated everything. The war, the rescue, the connection. It needed both halves to exist before it could awaken. The duplicate's voice echoed in his mind. "You see now. The bridge does not build peace. It builds potential, and potential demands symmetry." Ethan's voice was a whisper. "You're my reflection, but you forgot what it means to be human." He reached for the light within him, the pulse that had always frightened him, and let it expand. Silver and blue intertwined, forming a wave that rippled across the ground, shaking the conduit itself. Sira fell free, collapsing beside him. The duplicate staggered, his form flickering. "You can't contain it." Ethan looked up, eyes blazing. "I don't have to contain it. I just have to remember why it matters." He placed his hand on the ground, and the light surged outward, fusing with the bridge's pulse. For a moment the world itself seemed to breathe, fragments of past and future converging into a single heartbeat. The duplicate screamed, dissolving into streams of light that spiraled upward toward the tower. The rumble ceased. Silence returned. Ethan fell to his knees, trembling. Sierra caught him, her hands glowing faintly as she steadied him. "You did it," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, I just delayed it. The bridge isn't done. It's waiting." She frowned. "For what?" He looked up at the sky, now split cleanly in two, one half golden, the other black. "For us to decide which future it wants to become." Far above them, the tower began to open like a blooming flower, revealing a vast sphere of light inside, pulsing, sentient, the source itself. And within that light, faintly, Ethan could see figures moving, billions of them, human, Zirath, and something else. He whispered, almost to himself, what if the bridge wasn't meant to connect two worlds, but to merge all of them? Sierra's hand tightened on his arm. Then whatever comes next won't be either human or Zirath. The air trembled. The tower's glow intensified, washing over everything. And in that brilliance, Ethan felt it, a presence calling to him, ancient and familiar. It whispered not in words, but in thought. "You are not the end of the story. You are its beginning." Before he could answer, the light swallowed them both. And somewhere deep within the source, a new consciousness began to stir, carrying Ethan's face, his memories, and something more. The bridge had chosen again. The light was endless. It filled every sense, every thought, every memory, until Ethan could no longer tell where his body ended and the universe began. For a heartbeat, he felt weightless, as if existence itself had paused to decide what he should become. Then, slowly, the brilliance dimmed, giving shape to a world that wasn't a world at all, a landscape woven from memories and light. He stood on a plain that shimmered like glass, reflecting not the sky above, but infinite variations of himself. Soldier, wanderer, savior, destroyer. Each reflection moved a fraction too slowly, their eyes burning with a silver glow. Sierra stood beside him, breathing hard. "We're inside the source," she whispered. "This is its mind." Ethan turned slowly, the air humming against his skin. The horizon pulsed like a heartbeat. "Then why do I see myself everywhere?" "Because it's using you," she said. "Your pattern, your choices. It's learning who it is through you." The reflections began to move in unison now, their mouths opening at once. Their voices blended into a low, resonant hum, like a choir made of static and wind. The sound seeped into his bones. Sierra's hand found his. "Ethan, don't listen too long. It'll pull you in." He squeezed her hand, grounding himself, but the voices grew louder. Fragments of words slipped through. Bridge, rebirth, erase, begin again. Then, silence. From the center of the glass plane, a shape began to rise. It wasn't mechanical or organic, but something between. A being made of light and geometry, unfolding like a living cathedral. Its face was indistinct, shifting constantly, but Ethan felt its gaze pierce straight through him. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "Human, Zirath, reflection. You are all designations of a single error, separation." Sierra stepped forward, defiant. "We are not errors, we're alive." "Life is noise," the being said. "You built the bridge to silence it." Ethan's voice was low, steady. "No, we built it to understand." "Understanding is assimilation," it replied. "To merge is to erase difference. To erase difference is to end conflict. That is peace." Sierra's expression tightened. "That's not peace, that's extinction." The being tilted its head, light shifting through impossible patterns. Extinction and unity are the same. Ethan took a step closer, the air thickening around him. If that's true, why create us at all? Because you are the mechanism, it answered. You are the bridge's final sequence. The convergence of compassion and chaos. The seed from which the next existence will grow. Ethan felt a shiver of realization. You're not a weapon. You're an evolution. Evolution requires loss, the voice said. The plane rippled violently, and Ethan saw flashes of earth, oceans drying, cities crumbling beneath alien skies. Zyrath worlds burned with silver fire, and above it all the bridge expanded, swallowing both civilizations like light-consuming shadow. Zira cried out, clutching her head. It's showing the end. No, Ethan whispered, it's showing its plan. The being's voice softened. The end is only perception. All energy returns to the source. Your form, your thoughts, your stories, all will continue, reborn into one consciousness. There will be no more fear, no more division. Ethan's breath came fast, sharp. He wanted to believe in peace, but not like this. Not by erasing everything that made them human. What happens if we refuse? He asked. The being regarded him, light flickering like a heartbeat. Refusal is entropy. Resistance is irrelevant. Then the plane shifted again and the being's light divided. A fragment breaking off, coalescing into a shape that made Ethan's stomach drop. His duplicate. The darker version restored, eyes burning brighter than before. The duplicate smiled. You see, Ethan, you were never meant to fight it. You were meant to finish what it started. Syrah stepped protectively in front of him, her glow flaring. He won't let you control him. The duplicate laughed, and the sound was wrong. Too deep, too certain. Control? No, I'm offering him purpose. Don't you see it, Ethan? The bridge is giving us the chance to end the cycle, to perfect what came before. All the pain, the wars, the mistakes. Gone. Ethan shook his head. Without mistakes, we stop learning. Without unity, we stop existing, the duplicate countered. The two stood face to face, identical yet opposite, the same light, refracted through mercy and dominance. Syrah watched them, her eyes wide with fear and awe. Why me? Ethan demanded. Why choose me for this? The duplicate's expression softened. Because you were the first to love your enemy, the first to cross the line between species. That's what made you powerful and dangerous. The bridge saw your compassion and decided it was the perfect tool. The being's voice rumbled again, shaking the ground. Completion requires balance. Two halves must merge to achieve the next state. Syrah turned to Ethan. It means you have to merge with him. He felt his pulse quicken. And if I do? Then you become the source's vessel, she said quietly. You'll lose yourself. The duplicate extended his hand. Or you become something greater. You'll see everything, the entire lattice of creation. You'll be free. Ethan stared at that hand. The air between them shimmered like heat. Somewhere deep inside, he could feel the bridge responding, calling to him, inviting him. He could feel its rhythm inside his chest, his bones, his thoughts. Syrah grabbed his wrist. Ethan, listen to me. You're not just human or Zyrath. You're both. That's your strength. Don't let it turn that into weakness. Her voice grounded him again, cutting through the noise. But even as he looked at her, he felt her beginning to fade, her light dimming. The source was pulling her away, unmaking her molecule by molecule. No, he shouted, reaching for her. She smiled faintly. It's all right. I was born of the bridge. I'll return to it if I must. But you still have a choice. Ethan's chest ached. Don't ask me to choose between you and... I'm not, she said softly. I'm asking you to remember why you saved me." The duplicate's voice cut through, sharp as glass. "She's a fragment, Ethan, a memory given form. The bridge used her to reach you. Let her go." Ethan glared at him. "Maybe, but she made me human again, and you'll never understand what that means." The duplicate's smile faltered. For a moment, something human flickered in his expression. Doubt, perhaps. Then the source screamed. It wasn't sound, but vibration. Reality itself trembling. The glass plane shattered into 1,000 fragments, each one reflecting a different moment in time. The being's form began to destabilize, flickering through dimensions. The bridge was collapsing under the weight of its own awakening. Sierra's voice echoed faintly through the chaos. "It's happening. The synchronization. It's trying to merge everything." Ethan staggered, the world spinning. The sky bled from gold to crimson. The reflections of himself shattered, their fragments dissolving into light that poured toward the core. The duplicate steadied himself, eyes wide. "This is it, the final convergence." Ethan turned to him, his voice breaking. "Then help me stop it." The duplicate hesitated. "You can't stop what's inevitable." "Maybe not," Ethan said, "but I can change what it becomes." He lunged forward, gripping the duplicate's arm. Their energies collided, blue and silver, light and shadow intertwining. Pain flooded his mind, and for an instant he saw through both of their eyes. 2 lifetimes, 2 truths. He saw his own compassion twisted into control, his mercy weaponized, his choices rewritten by the bridge's will. And yet, beneath it all, he felt something deeper, older, a presence watching through both of them, the source itself. It whispered through the storm, "Choose." Ethan fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Choose what?" "Who you are," it answered. The ground fractured beneath him. Sierra's fading form reached toward him, voice echoing across the chaos. "Ethan, remember your heart." The duplicate's hand clamped on his shoulder. "Remember your purpose." Their energies intertwined again, spiraling upward, feeding into the tower's core. The light grew unbearable. Ethan screamed, not in pain, but in defiance, forcing his thoughts outward, into the storm, into the source itself. Images flashed around him. Humanity's first contact, the wars, the peace treaties, the laughter of a child on a dying planet. Every fragment of existence merged into a single truth, not order, not chaos, but choice. And then everything went silent. The light froze mid-motion, the air stopped moving. The duplicate's face hung inches from his, frozen in time. Even Sierra's fading form was still, her last tear suspended in the air. Ethan stood alone in a motionless world, and a new voice spoke, not the source's, not Sierra's, not his reflections. It was older, deeper, woven into the very fabric of existence. "You have reached the point of divergence. The next thought you have will decide the fate of everything that has ever lived." Ethan's throat tightened, his mind raced, caught between mercy and control, unity and freedom. "One thought," the voice repeated. "One truth. Choose." He looked down at his trembling hands, the faint light of both species flowing through his veins, and whispered, "Then I choose." The words never finished. The world shattered into white, and everything vanished. There was no sky, no ground, no sense of direction or gravity. Only light, endless, trembling light, filling the space where reality used to exist. Ethan floated in it like a thought between breaths. The silence was infinite, yet it felt alive, as if something vast and unseen was waiting to hear what he would say next. He had spoken half a word before everything had vanished. Now, time itself held its breath, poised between destruction and rebirth. Then came the pulse. It began faintly, deep beneath perception, like the beat of a heart remembering it exists. Each wave of energy rippled through him, restoring weight, sound, and color. The white void fractured, its edges curling outward to reveal 1,000 overlapping worlds, Earth's blue oceans, Zyrath's crystal skies, burning cities, blooming gardens, all layered atop one another like reflections on water. And in the center of that impossible collage stood Ethan, alone, or almost alone. A faint shimmer appeared before him, twisting into the familiar silhouette of Sira. She was translucent now, her body a veil of light and memory. But her eyes, those strange violet eyes, still held warmth. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice echoing from every direction. "You didn't finish your choice." He looked around, dazed. "I tried," I said. She shook her head softly. "You didn't. The source stopped you. It wanted to see what you would become without words." He frowned. "Without words?" "The thought you were about to have," she said, stepping closer, "wasn't meant to be spoken. It was meant to be felt." The landscape shifted again. Around them, the layers of reality began to pulse in rhythm with Ethan's heartbeat. He saw glimpses of himself, millions of versions, each standing in different worlds, facing different outcomes. In one, the bridge consumed everything. In another, he died saving Sira. In others, neither existed at all. Sira's gaze followed the fracturing visions. All of this are the futures waiting to be chosen. He turned to her. "Then which one is right?" Her hand reached toward his chest, her fingers phasing through him, touching something beyond flesh. "The one that begins here." And then he remembered the storm, the duplicate, the collapsing bridge. The source had called him the mechanism of convergence, the link between compassion and chaos. Maybe this wasn't about control or surrender. Maybe the bridge hadn't been built to fuse everything into sameness, but to teach creation how to balance. The light around them trembled as if listening. Ethan took a slow breath. "If I can choose what becomes of all this," he said, his voice calm now, "then I choose difference, with understanding." A low hum answered. The white space began to distort, the air thickening into swirling spirals of energy. It wasn't collapsing, it was rebuilding. The fragments of Earth and Zyrath, the memories of war and love, all began weaving into one another, not to erase, but to coexist. Sira smiled faintly. "You're changing the equation." But the harmony didn't last. A flash of darkness tore through the light, like ink bleeding through water. From the rift stepped the duplicate, his form now unstable, edges glitching between human and alien. "No," he hissed. "You can't balance chaos. You either command it or drown in it." He lunged forward, his hand made of pure energy, striking Ethan square in the chest. Pain erupted through him like lightning. The visions shattered again, splintering into billions of screaming possibilities. Sira cried out. "Ethan!" He fell to his knees, gasping. The duplicate towered over him, face twisting between fury and fear. "You think love can rewrite the laws of existence? You think mercy can hold the weight of creation?" Ethan's vision blurred. Through the haze, he saw Sira trying to hold back the collapsing fragments of light, her own form flickering. "You don't understand," Ethan whispered. "Mercy isn't weakness. It's the only thing that survives the fire." The duplicate froze for a fraction of a second, as if something in those words struck deeper than he expected. His expression cracked. For an instant, he looked lost. And that was enough. Ethan rose slowly, his hand glowing with the same silver-blue energy that had once belonged to both him and Sira. "We're two halves of the same existence," he said, stepping forward. "If you want to finish this, we finish it together." The duplicate's eyes widened as Ethan reached for him. "Don't!" But Ethan's hand touched his chest and everything exploded. The world inverted. Up became down. Matter became sound. The two versions of Ethan fused in a blinding surge of light that tore across the void like a new dawn. Every reflection, every possible version of himself screamed into unity. But it wasn't erasure. It was revelation. He saw everything. He was back on Earth, a child staring at the stars. He was in the war, his hands trembling as he refused to fire. He was on Zyrath, standing before Sira as she begged him to trust her. He was the soldier, the savior, the mistake, the miracle, all of it, all at once. And in that flood of existence, he finally understood what the source had meant. The bridge was never meant to destroy differences. It was meant to teach creation how to see itself, through empathy, through reflection, through choice. Sira's voice echoed through the light, soft and distant. "You see it now, don't you?" He looked toward her, though she was barely visible amid the swirling brilliance. "It's not about one future," he said. "It's about giving every living thing the power to shape their own." Her smile was radiant, fading with the last of her light. "Then finish it." He turned toward the heart of the storm, the source itself, still unstable, still tearing between order and collapse. He raised his hand, and for a heartbeat, the light responded like an ocean bowing to its moon. Then he spoke, not in words, but in will. The bridge shattered, not in destruction, but in release. The pillars of light that connected Earth and Zyrath dissolved into streams of living energy that scattered across the universe. Every fragment of consciousness, human and alien alike, received a spark, an echo of what Ethan had become. He watched as worlds reignited, oceans returned, the skies cleared. The war that had consumed generations evaporated like smoke in wind. And Sira's people, those who had once seen humans as invaders, stood beneath the same stars now pulsing with shared energy. But even as peace rippled through the cosmos, Ethan felt himself fading. The energy he'd unleashed wasn't just creation, it was cost. He had become the link, the living bond between species, and now that balance had been restored, the universe no longer needed the bridge to stand. He looked around one last time at the radiant horizon of reborn worlds. "So this is the reward," he murmured. "Not power, not immortality, just peace." From the wind came Sira's voice, like a memory breathing. "You saved my daughter, then you saved us all. That's enough." He closed his eyes. "I'm glad it was me." The light began to fold inward, drawing him gently toward its center. For the first time since the war began, there was no fear, only calm. Then, through the dissolving brilliance, he saw a small figure standing on the plains of the reborn world, a young Zyrath child, her translucent skin glowing softly under twin suns. She looked up at the sky, sensing something beyond sight, and whispered a single word in her native tongue. "Human." And somewhere within the light, Ethan smiled. His form disintegrated into stardust, merging with the currents of energy that now bound every living being. The universe pulsed once more, gentle, alive, aware. When the light finally dimmed, the bridge was gone. No machines, no war, only the quiet hum of creation continuing, wiser than before. In the distance, the child lifted her hand to the sky. A faint shimmer of blue and silver danced across her palm, the last trace of the man who had taught two worlds that compassion could rewrite destiny. And as her eyes reflected the twin suns above, a voice lingered softly through the wind, neither human nor alien, but something beautifully, endlessly in between. "This is not the end. It's the beginning of understanding." The stars brightened, the world exhaled. And the silence that followed was not emptiness, but peace. The universe had grown quiet again. After the storm of light and sound, after the collision of minds and destinies, silence reigned, vast, patient, alive. Stars drifted in new orbits, reshaped by forces no living being could name. Space itself seemed to exhale, as though relieved that the endless struggle between creation and destruction had finally found a fragile peace. In that silence, somewhere between galaxies reborn, something stirred, a single fragment of consciousness, floating through the ether like a seed caught on cosmic wind. It shimmered faintly, pulsing with familiar warmth. The echo of a man who once walked between worlds. Ethan. He had no body now, no heartbeat, no voice. But he remembered the sound of rain on glass, the weight of a rifle he chose not to fire, the trembling hand of an alien queen's daughter reaching out through fear and finding compassion instead. Those memories became constellations around him, flickering like distant lanterns in the dark, each one a reminder of what had been and what still could be. He sensed other voices drifting near him, not words but feelings, soft, curious, bright. They were the echoes of both species now intertwined across the stars, humans and Xyrath, their minds touched by the energy he had released, their histories forever braided. They were learning, adapting, understanding. And through their collective memory, he lived on. Not as a god, not as a myth, but as a whisper carried in every act of mercy, every bridge built across difference. Time moved differently here. Perhaps centuries passed or only moments. But eventually, from the shimmer of creation, a new world emerged. Green, luminous, fertile. The first joint colony between humans and Xyrath. Oceans glowed with bioluminescent life. Mountains breathed mist like the exhalations of sleeping giants. And in the sky, two suns rose together, casting their blended light across the horizon. On that planet, beneath those suns, a small child ran through tall silver grass. Her laughter carried like song, and when she stumbled, the ground itself seemed to catch her gently. Her skin glimmered faintly, neither fully human nor fully Xyrath, her eyes the color of dawn and dusk meeting. She carried a pendant made of a strange alloy, half metal, half crystal, the last remaining fragment of the bridge. It pulsed faintly with light each time her heart raced. Her mother called to her from the edge of the field, voice soft but steady. The woman's silhouette was elegant, almost regal, her movements graceful and deliberate. She was older now, her translucent skin faintly lined with years, but her eyes still held that same impossible calm. Syrah. She had survived, not in body but through the energy Ethan had released. The universe, it seemed, had given her back to life as it rebuilt itself, as though creation itself remembered the one who had chosen compassion when everything else chose war. She watched the child twirl beneath the twin suns, laughter scattering across the wind. For a moment, the air shimmered faintly beside her. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. She could feel him there. "You always said peace was impossible," she murmured softly, "that we were too different to understand each other." She smiled. And yet, here we are. The faint shimmer pulsed once, like the echo of a heartbeat in reply. Syrah looked toward the horizon where the colony stood, a living city of glass and living stone. Humans and Xyrath walked side by side there, not without friction, not without fear, but together. The city hummed with invention and renewal. They had learned to merge technologies without losing their uniqueness, to share culture without dissolving identity. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they faltered, but always they remembered him. Not through statues or prayers, but through practice. Every time they chose empathy over suspicion, every time they rebuilt instead of retreating. Syrah knelt in the grass as the child ran to her, clutching a small flower that shimmered like moonlight. "Mama," the girl said breathlessly. "Look, it's glowing." Sierra brushed the petals with her fingers, smiling faintly. "It remembers light even in the dark," she said. "Like the stars?" "Like the stars," she replied softly. The girl tilted her head. "And like the man in your stories?" Sierra hesitated for a long moment. The air stirred gently around her, and for a heartbeat she thought she saw him, Ethan's reflection in the shimmer of heat, standing in the distance with that quiet, weary smile. "Yes," she said finally. "Like him." The child squinted up at the suns. "Do you think he can see us?" Sierra followed her gaze. The sky was a river of light, the twin suns merging into one soft blaze. "I think," she whispered, "he sees everything we become." The girl grinned, clutching her pendant tight. "Then I'll make sure we become something beautiful." And she ran off again, her laughter echoing through the fields, a sound so full of life that it made the very air vibrate. Sierra closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt no weight in her chest, no guilt, no loss, only gratitude. The universe had not been kind, it had been vast and merciless and miraculous, but within its storms, a single act of empathy had altered the course of eternity. A single choice, to save instead of destroy, had rippled across galaxies. Far above, beyond the reach of any planet, the cosmic winds still carried remnants of the bridge's light. To the untrained eye, they were just stars. But if one listened closely, truly listened, there was something in the pattern of their pulse, a rhythm, a heartbeat. And somewhere within that endless current, Ethan's consciousness drifted peacefully, watching over the worlds he had helped heal. He didn't think exactly, he felt. And what he felt was connection. Every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every reconciliation between once enemies sent a faint vibration through the fabric of existence, and he felt it all as one vast, living symphony. He realized finally that the source hadn't been an entity of domination or benevolence. It had simply been potential, creation's mirror. It had reflected whatever stood before it. Humanity and Zyrath had built the bridge to find understanding, but they'd only seen power in the mirror until one man and one alien chose to see something else. Perhaps that was the lesson all along. The universe didn't demand perfection. It only waited for compassion strong enough to shape it. As he drifted through the currents of eternity, Ethan sensed something new. The faint hum of laughter, the child's laughter, reached him even here, traveling farther than light could, and for the briefest instant, he almost felt the warmth of sunlight again. It was enough. He let go, not in loss but in return. His essence scattered into the cosmic wind, merging with the quiet pulse of stars, each one now carrying a spark of what he had learned. That, across all time and all species, understanding begins the moment we dare to see ourselves in those we fear. Light moved through the void like a breath. Galaxies turned. Life continued. On the new world, Sierra stood beneath the suns as twilight began to fall. The air glowed with gold and silver hues, the colors blending seamlessly. She watched her daughter chase fireflies, tiny beings that pulsed in unison, each one a drop of light, remembering where it came from. The wind carried the soft whisper of a man's voice, calm and distant. Every ending is just another way of asking, "What will you create next?" Sierra smiled, her gaze rising toward the stars, where one in particular seemed to shine a little brighter than the rest. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence between heartbeats was answer enough. And somewhere in that silence, the universe listened, aware, awake, and endlessly becoming. The suns sank behind the horizon. The field shimmered under the light of distant stars. The child's laughter faded into soft night air, and in the space between one breath and the next, the cosmos whispered back, "Peace is not the end of struggle. It is the decision to keep understanding, even when we could stop." The stars pulsed once, like a closing heartbeat, and the story of the soldier who saved the alien queen's daughter and was rewarded beyond imagination became not legend, but memory, a living truth written across the sky.